الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا اللهم بما علمتنا وزدنا اللهم علما وعملا إنك ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. فنواصل درسنا في بلوغ المرام بشرح العلماء رحمة الله على الجميع، ووقفنا في آخر باب الحيض من كتاب الطهارة، وبإذن الله وعونه وتوفيقه سنكمل هذا الباب في هذا الدرس إن شاء الله. So we're going to continue and complete inshallah today the chapter of the Menses, and this is the last chapter of the book of Tahara, of purification in Bulugh Al-Maram, and then we'll go inshallah into the chapter of Salah, the next following chapter in the book. And we left off in the hadith نعم حديث 40 بعد 100 عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: أليس إذا حاضت المرأة لم تصلي ولم تصم؟ متفق عليه. من حديث طويل. This hadith the author brought as a part of a long hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, isn't it the case that the woman, when she has menses, she does not pray and she does not fast? So obviously he brought this hadith to indicate the ruling, we all know, but the proof for it is that the menstruating woman is not allowed to pray or fast. This is the proof, and others evidences. But here هذا الجواد القول من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جاء جوابا لسؤال أورد عليه، وذلك لما وعظ النساء يوم العيد ذكرهن بقوله تعالى: ما رأيت من ناقصات عقل ودين أذهب للب الرجل الحازم من إحداكن. So the beginning of this hadith, it's a story, an event. Prophet ﷺ went to the women after he gave the khutbah to Eid for the men. He then went to the women and advised them on the day of Eid to give charity and the like and fear Allah. And then he told them, and a warning, he said, I have not seen from those who are deficient in you could say memory, deficient in memory, in memorizing or in remembering, and deficient in religion, that are more effective and influencing on the reasonable or a resolute man like you are. I mean, I have not seen, he's telling the women, I have not seen anyone who can have such a strong effect on the most resolved man, determined man, like you all, although you have deficiency in these two matters. What is the deficiency? The deficiency in and this is not something blameworthy, this is the fact Allah created them as such, okay? But nonetheless, they have this effect on the men. The deficiency in two things. One, you could say, aql here means the memory, you could say. Memory of events. And also in the deen, in the religion of the women. And then he clarified, because then what happened, تنبهت النساء فسألتهن يعني سألناه النساء ما نقصان عقل ما نقصان عقلنا. Then the women, they naturally they were and wanted to know, which is it was not to debate, but they were asking to understand what is our deficiency in our aql, in our minds, you could say. And he said, بين صلى الله عليه وسلم ذلك بأن شهادة الرجل بشهادة امرأتين كما في قوله تعالى فإن لم يكونا رجلين فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من النساء أن تضل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى. And he recited to them, to the women, the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indicating that two women, if you don't have two men to testify, to witness upon a deal, be it a loan or the like, then you have to have two women and one man. You only have one man. You can't find another man to as a witness. Then you have to have two women to make up for that one man you're missing. So clearly there's a deficiency. And then he clarified, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, and if one of the two women, why is that? Because if one of those two women forgets or doesn't know the information, then the other one is there to remind her, okay, or to teach her. أن تضل بمعنى أن تجهل أو تنسى فتذكر أي بمعنى تنبه فإن كانت جاهلة فبالتعليم وإن كانت ناسية فبالتذكير. So the woman needs another one with her side to remind her of the information or to teach her that information. So this is something that we know, as from experience. For whatever reason, it may be because of hormones, the way they're created, the women, perhaps because of the difficulty of childbirth. For whatever reason, women في الغالب ليس دائما usually have a weaker memory than men. And so هذا الحكم بمناسبة ذلك. So this ruling that Allah is saying, this is very appropriate. It's not blaming them, but it is dealing with people according to their abilities. Okay? So that's one. So that's why when she asked, what is our deficiency in the mind? He said, it's the memory. Then they said, وَمَا نُقْصَانُ الدِّينِ, what is their deficiency in the religion? Then he answered with this hadith. أَلَيْسَ إِذَا حَاضَتْ لَمْ تُصَلِّ وَلَمْ تَصُومْ. He said, isn't it that when she is menstruating, she can't pray and she can't fast? Okay? في وقت هذا 7 أيام وقت الحيض الرجل يصلي ويصوم وهي لم تصلي ولم تصوم فهو يزداد إيمانه وهي لم تتغير وهو يزداد. فهذا هو يعني بدرجة يعني أعلى منها بالدين والإيمان على حسب هذه المدة. So it's clear. Why is that? Because during the menstruating period, be it 7 days or the like, she can't fast, she can't pray. And we know that with the good deeds, the faith goes up. The more we pray, al-iman yazidu bil-ta'at wa yanqusu bil-ma'asi. We know that from the evidences in the Quran and Sunnah, and also in our daily lives. We know that with the more we do dhikr with the tongue, or we ponder upon the ayat of Allah in our hearts, or do actions of prayer and fasting and reading Quran or the like, the more our faith would increase. Okay? And so in this period of the woman, she cannot have that, does not have that. Okay? So therefore, she has deficiency. But is she blameworthy? Is she blamed? هل تلام على هذا النقص؟ لا أبدا. لأن هذا ليس بيدها. It's not from her actions. يعني وليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى. The person is not taken into account except for what they choose to do. Okay? But this is just فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. This is the favor. Allah favors some creatures over others. لأن هنا هذا نقص في الإيمان ولكن نقص الإيمان ينقسم إلى قسمين. We should know that the deficiency of faith is two kinds. One is that which يلام, the person is blameworthy for بترك واجب وفعل معصية يعني بتقصد a person leaves obligation. He doesn't pray. Then he's blameworthy. His faith goes down. Okay? He does a sin. We said his faith goes down. This one for sure, a person blameworthy, male or female. Okay? But إنسان ترك واجبا لعذر فيه وترك مستحبا فلا يلام عليه. Opposite, a person who leaves something that he's excused for, like this case of the woman. Okay, a person, for example, can't fast Ramadan. He's left off some obligation. Okay, but he's excused. He's sick. He's not blamed. There's no blame on him. But he's not going to be like the one who is healthy. All right. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. Allah gives some people good health. They can fast many Ramadan. No doubt they have been given an opportunity that the one who's sick doesn't have. But nonetheless, the sick is not blameworthy. Same here. Similarly, Allah جعل وفضل بعض الخلق في العلم والعبادة. يفضل الناس بعضهم على بعض. Also, Allah gives some of His creatures more knowledge by nature. They have more intelligence or opportunity to have the knowledge. So they're in a higher state than the one who doesn't have that knowledge. Although the one who doesn't have, as long as he wasn't lazy about it, it just didn't have that ability, he's not blamed. And في المال كذلك. هناك أغنياء وهناك فقراء. هناك تفضيل في المال. Also money, Allah makes some people rich and some people poor. The rich people have obviously more opportunity, sadaqah, that they can do, that the poor people don't have this opportunity. But the poor people are not blamed. Okay? Also, with the more opportunity, there's a balance. كما يقال الغنم مع الغنم. With the opportunity comes the responsibility. It comes the penalty. The penalty. What is the person who has money he has to do? To give zakat. He has to give sadaqah. It's a penalty. The poor person is removed from them that responsibility. Okay, so the rich man has to do. Was zakatul ilm at-ta'lim. The person who Allah gives knowledge, zakat, teach it. If he doesn't teach that knowledge, then he's blameworthy. He's shirking his responsibility. And the one who doesn't have knowledge doesn't have that responsibility. And so, it's less burden on him. And likewise, the men. الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم وما أنفقوا من أموالهم. Allah said that the males are the caretakers of the women. بما فضل الله, because with that favor of faith and mind and abilities, that they have favor over the women, they have to take care of the other partner and spend. They have to take care of that. وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. Allah said the men have a rank above the women. But with that, He said that it comes a responsibility. So everything for wisdom. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates who He wants with what? يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. As Allah said, Allah creates whatever He wills and chooses. This for that and that for that. Everything for a reason. But as you said, the point of the hadith in this chapter is about the menses. She doesn't pray. Haram. Haram. It's not a choice. Haram for her to pray or to fast. But she obviously makes up the fasting. She misses during the period, but she does not have to. She does not make up the prayers. She does not make up those prayers because that's it. As-salat takarrur. It's too much. 5 times 7, 35 prayers. It's too much. But 7 days fasting, that's 7. That's reasonable. Hadith التالي. Next, any question on this hadith? No? Next حديث واحد والأربعون بعد المئة عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت لما جئنا سلف حذت فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم افعلي ما يفعل الحاج غير ألا تطوفي بالبيت حتى تطهري متفق عليه. Next hadith reported from our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. She said, talking about the Hajjatul Wada, the farewell Hajj, the only Hajj the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, أنه خرج بأزواجه كلهن. He went with all of his wives, took them, including Aisha, for this Hajj. فقالت لما جئنا أي نحن كجماعة سرف مكان. She said when we were leaving Al-Medina, we came to this place called Sarif في طريق مكة من المدينة. فحذت. She said then I got my period. She's on the way to Hajj, and Allah decreed that her period should come. So she began to. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam دخل عليها. He entered upon her وهي تبكي, and she was crying. Naturally, she's going to miss out on some worships because she came to do Hajj Tamattu. Hajj Tamattu is one of the 3 types of Hajj. It's the best type, that you do Umrah separate, independent, and then you break out of the Ihram, and then you do Hajj. And this is what most of us do. Okay, you go a little bit early, before the the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, you make the Umrah, and then you free from the Ihram, wait in your hotel until the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, the month. Then we Yawm Tarwiyah, the people, they go to Mina, and then after that Arafah and so on. But so she came for this purpose, to do the Umrah, independent, complete Umrah, but she couldn't because of this situation. قال لها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تسلية إن هذا شيء كتبه الله على بنات آدم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, from his good manners, he consoled her. First thing he told her, that this is something that Allah has written upon the daughters of Adam. Okay, why would he say that? Because لأن الإنسان إذا يعني شارك معه غيره في مصيبة يتأسى بهم فهانت عليه المصيبة. هانت عليه المصيبة. Why? Because when a person knows that there's others with him in this problem, or her, then it lightens the calamity. But if a person thinks, I'm the only one going through this, it's heavy. But if he knows there's other people with him, other women all over the world going through this, then it's more easier to bear. So this is the wisdom to say that ويبين ويشير إلى ذلك قوله تعالى ولن ينفعكم اليوم إذ ظلمتم أنكم في العذاب مشتركون. What also this related to this matter of people going through something together, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the people of the hellfire, and it does not benefit you or help you this day when you have transgressed, that you are all going through it together, that you're all being punished together. In this case, it's against the norm. The norm is, in this dunya, people are being punished or something, or not. Hayd is not punishment, but if there was a punishment upon a land, Everyone in that is going through this flood, the neighbors and so on, and it's easier because they're going through it. But when there's a punishment in the next life, Allah said, no, it doesn't make things easier for you. It's different than in this life, different than the norm. So the norm here applies to the menstruating woman. So again, this is from the good manners of the Prophet ﷺ, that he took into account her feelings, consoled her. ها؟ وهذا من حسن خلقه وكان أحسن الناس خلقا فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم من نساء إلى نسائكم وأنا خيركم لنسائي. He said, the best of you are those who are best to their wives. And I'm the best to my wife. I'm the best to my wives. And so it demonstrated that. And also we noticed from the last hadith about the woman who asked about why are we deficient, in mind and religion. هذا أيضا من حسن خلق النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من انشراح صدره أنه يقبل أن يناقشه الناس, that he's open to people to question. He didn't say, no, I just said it, you're deficient. Just take it and go. She asked why, and he with an open heart, he told her why. He gave her the wisdom that he knew. He didn't just, ignore her and that or be rough with her. Okay, here. Next, so after he consoled her, he said, افعلي ما يفعل الحاج غير ألا تطوفي بالبيت حتى تطهري. So now is the ruling. Now is the ruling for the menstruating woman when it comes to the actions of Hajj. We talked about prayer already. When it comes to Hajj, he told her, do what the Hajj person does, except don't do tawaf, the circumambulation around the Kaaba. Hatta tathuri, until you clean, until the bleeding ends. In qita' ad-dam, we said cleanse of being pure from the bleeding. For the menses, a woman has to be completely finished her period. So this hadith is muttafaqun alayh fi Bukhari wa Muslim. غير ألا تطوفي بالبيت. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال شيخنا شيخ ابن عثيمين لم يذكر السعي. He didn't mention the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, between the two mounts. Okay? So this means that you can generally do that without being pure, being on menses. But sa'i يعني لابد أن يسبقه طواف. But sa'i is connected to tawaf. This is generally the rule. So if you don't do tawaf, you can't do tawaf. There's no room for sa'i. Anyways. Okay? But if a person, for example, does tawaf and then properly, upon tahara, and then they lose their wudu. Okay? They had wudu for tawaf. They lost their wudu. When it comes to sa'i, you don't have to have wudu for sa'i. You can go ahead without refreshing your wudu. That we benefit from this hadith. Okay? So all the actions of Hajj, be it Rami Jamarat, or Sa'i, or Al-Mabit bil Muzdalifa, or Wukuf bi Arafah, كله لم يشترط له الطهارة. There's no condition to be upon purity, whether clean from major impurity, like menses, or from minor impurity, like using the restroom. You don't have to have wudu. Only tawaf. Why? Because tawaf ukhtu salah. Why? Because tawaf is like salah. That's based upon the hadith. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال الطواف بالبيت صلاة إلا أن الله أحل فيه المنطق الكلام. This hadith, the tawaf is like prayer, is prayer, except that Allah has allowed in it speaking. You can speak. Doesn't mean a person is on his phone. That's not the speaking we're talking, meaning he can make all kinds of dhikr, and he's allowed to talk for some need, to make way for himself or to protect his family or talk to his family for some need. But mainly he does dhikr, Quran along that way. For some need, he can talk. So it's different than prayer. Prayer is no. A person cannot say anything in the prayer. Uh, it violates the prayer. So that's the basis, along with this hadith, for which the scholars say, min sharti al-tawaf al-tahara. From the condition of making tawaf is purity. Purity, have to. There's different opinion on that, but based on these evidences, it indicates that matter. Okay? أيضا في حديث أن أمنا صفية بنت حيي أيضا كانت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الحج، فهي حاضت لكن في موضع ثاني. عائشة حاضت في أول الحج، يعني أول العمرة، وصفية حاضت في آخر العمرة، في آخر الحج، في آخر النسك. So also clarifying this matter, that a woman has to be pure from her menses, that Safiya, another wife of the Prophet ﷺ, she got the menses in the end of the Hajj. Aisha, beginning the rites, Safiya in the end. فقال لما يعني نبه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بذلك فقال أحابستنا هي. He said, is she going to be restraining us, meaning keeping us back from traveling? Why? Because because tawaf al-ifada, the tawaf on the day of Eid, Yawm al-Nahr, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, or after someone has to, this is a rukun, this is a pillar. Okay? The umrah, a person can be excused. Like a menstruating woman, she can not do that tawaf, okay, because of her menses. But she doesn't do tawaf, right? She doesn't do it, but she doesn't have to, make it up, okay? But tawaf al-ifada, the one on the day of the Hajj, of the 10th, this is rukun, this is a pillar, like wukuf bi Arafah, like standing on Arafah. A person doesn't do standing on the Mount Arafah, on that place, he missed the Hajj. Okay, like the pillar, like takbiratul ihram in the prayer, or sajda, like sujood and ruku'. If a person doesn't make sajda in the prayer, his prayer is batil. One person doesn't do tawaf ifada, hajj batil, no hajj for them. So he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, meaning that we have to wait for her then, okay? Because تبادر إلى ذهنه أنها لم تطف, because he assumed that she had not done tawaf ifada. So that's why he said we're going to have to wait then. فقيل له إنها قد أفاضت، يعني طافت طواف الإفاضة يا رسول الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلتنفر إذن. But then he was informed that she had done tawaf ifada. So the difficulty is removed now. So he said, then she can leave, and we can leave, because she has to have mahram. He can't leave her, So, but she did the rukun, so problem solved. We can all go back to Al-Madinah. What did she not do then? She didn't do tawaf wada, which is the last thing. What you farewell tawaf. But this is what's called wajib. It's not rukun, meaning a person like the one that Aisha missed. Okay, it's okay. She's excused. Like similarly the last one, but the one in the middle, tawaf ifada, you can't miss it. But she didn't miss it, so it's okay. So where's the proof in this? The proof in this is that if it was not a condition to be upon purity, then he would have told her, no problem, go ahead, go ahead, do the tawaf. just tie something around you to tahaffuth, make sure you're not gonna spill any blood in the masjid, and it's okay because we're in a difficulty here. We don't want to wait another 7 days. We have to go back to Medina. But he didn't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam that. He said, okay, then we're gonna have to wait. Okay, we're gonna have to wait. So this is why this opinion, some scholars hold that the tahara min sharti at-tawaf. It's a condition. There's other opinion. Okay, we should know the other opinion. The other opinion هذا ضرورة. مثلا امرأة حاضت قبل أن تطوف ويوم مغادرة الرجوع إلى البلد في يوم الثالث من أيام التشريق، أي بعد 3 أيام، يعني ما فيش وقت أنها تكمل الحيض قبل السفر. فهذا حرج. Why? Because some scholars say if this is the situation, she just got the menses, she didn't do tawaf ifadah, and they're leaving in 3 days, and her period takes 7 days. The flight is already booked. Okay, they're gonna have to leave in 3 days. If we say she has to wait, they're gonna miss the flight. So some scholars say it's a difficulty. She can go ahead and wrap some pad or something and go ahead and do it. Okay, but as we said, this goes against these hadith. That opinion goes against these hadith. But some scholars say because of the difficulty. But there's another way. Okay, there's another way. If they have to leave, they can't wait. The flight is booked. إن كانوا من بلد قريب ويمكن العودة فلها أن تذهب وهي تبقى محرمة لا تحل لزوجتها وحتى يعني تتطهر ثم تعود. Okay, إن كان في إمكانها ذلك. If she is from a nearby land, okay, like in the Khalij or Egypt or such or Africa, and they can go back. She can go back later, get another flight later, and go and complete, make up for that tawaf. She can do that. But in that case, she cannot break out of the ihram, meaning she remains haram for putting on perfume and having relation with the husband. I'm sorry, for having relation with the husband. Okay, then for that period of time, and then soon after, a week later or so, if possible, she goes back, catches a flight with her husband, and does the tawaf ifadah. That's possible. Okay, if she can't wait, she comes back. لكن يبقى الإشكال إذا كانت من بلد بعيدة. What if she's from a far land, and there's no way she's going to catch another flight for months or ever? She can't stay ihram for months like that. So there's another possibility. The scholars mention أنها إذا علمت أنها قد تحيض قبل طواف الإفاضة فلها أن تتناول دواء منع الحيض في الوقت المناسب حتى يتأخر حيضها عن الطواف. The other possibility is that she can, if she knows her period is coming on that or shortly before tawaf ifadah, then she can take some medicine to prevent or delay her period, like birth control, similar to, or medicine that will delay her period. Of course, there's some possible, medical side effect. Okay, but this is a necessary evil. If she has no other way, she can't wait, she can't miss the flight. Okay, and she knows her period is going to come right at that time. Take some medicine, delay the period, get your tawaf ifadah, you're done. Get your flight home. Okay, that's another option. So that's the solution that is reasonable for this woman in this situation.
Is it possible if the woman is with her husband, because there is possibility that someone can do Hajj for someone else, or umrah for someone else, right? Is it possible that knowing that the woman is in that situation, that the husband go and perform that tawaf for her if they from a far land?
I mean, have not in the middle of the rites. It would have to be something that he does for her from the beginning. The whole, yeah, we can't separate, as far as I know, pillars and rites. You know, it has to be completely done, and it has to be with the intention from the beginning. The intention from the beginning, he has that I'm doing this Hajj on behalf of. But again, that is for on behalf of a person who, like an old person,
Cannot perform it, yeah.
not for the wife, not for the wife, unless she is a person who cannot yani, perform it. But then it would have to be again totally separate visit
Yeah, from the beginning.
from the beginning. You can do on behalf of people who cannot for some reasons, but it has to be totally separate visit. You know, you cannot do it at the same trip even. You know. Any other questions on this one? So other benefits the Sheikh mentioned from this hadith is the permission جواز إدخال الحج على الأمرة عند تعذر إتمامها. That going back to the situation of Aisha radiallahu anha, she had to basically leave her umrah. Okay, she did make it up at the end. Okay, but she didn't know that she was going to be able to, but she left it. Meaning she came with the intention to do umrah, but she was allowed to connect the hajj into it. Okay, and so she did a different type of hajj. Not tamattu, she did a lesser form, which is without the umrah in it, and this indicates it's allowed. Okay, so that's that hadith. We have one more, one more hadith related to this chapter. وحديث الثالث والأربعون بعد المئة عن أم سلمة رضي الله عنها قالت كانت النفساء تقعد على عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد نفاسها 40 يوما ورواه الخمسة إلا النسائي وصححه الشيخ الألباني في صحيح أبي داود وفي لفظ له ولم يأمرها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بقضاء صلاة النفاس. So the last hadith related to the sister of menses, which is postnatal bleeding. There's hayd and there's nifas. Hayd and nifas. Nifas, postnatal bleeding after the pregnancy. After delivery, women usually have bleeding. More or less, but she may not. Okay, but usually they have some bleeding, and this is also the dam tabi'ah. This is also that which is similar blood to the hayd, to the period monthly. So this hadith reported by Salama that she said that the women of postnatal bleeding at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would sit, meaning not pray or fast, for 40 days after delivery. 40 days after delivery. Meaning, usual case and the limit of the bleeding was 40 days. To consider that, blood that prevents her from praying or fasting. In one narration, it said, and the Prophet ﷺ did not order her, the woman, to make up the prayers. Similarly, that's a long time, 40 days, 5 prayers a day. It's impossible to make up that prayer, but she does have to make up fasting. If it happened during Ramadan or the like, she has to make up obligatory fasting. She missed it. فالنفاس تعريفه هو الدم الذي يخرج عند الولادة. This is the blood that comes after pregnancy or before even. وكان قبل الولادة بيوم أو يومين أو ثلاثة مع الطلق بشرط استصحابه للطلق فهو يعد من النفاس. Also, if it's a couple of days even before delivery, a woman may have bleeding. Okay, she may have bleeding. If it accompanies the labor pains, this is considered as postnatal bleeding. Meaning, even although it's called postnatal, this is usual case, but even pre-delivery, if it's 1 or 2 days along with the labor pains, then this bleeding also prevents her from praying or fasting. Okay. بخلاف الماء الذي يخرج قبل الولادة أو بعد الولادة لا يعد شيئا. If it's just water breaks, for example, during delivery, that doesn't prevent her from praying or fasting. She has to pray and fast. Even if it's during labor. If it's anything besides blood, then it's not considered to prevent her or affect her at all. And when she said قالت تقعد على عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعني في حياة النبي, she said at the life of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, we used to the women would used to consider for 40 days. She didn't say the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said something or told us something, but this happened during his life. يعني المقصود أنه قرر يعني أقرها على هذا الفعل. It means that he approved. Okay, well that's the type of sunnah. Sunnah على ثلاثة أقسام, فعلية وقولية وتقريرية. There's 3 types of sunnah. What he sallallahu alayhi wasallam did, what he said, and what he approved of. He approved of. So, but someone might say, okay, there's nothing. How do we know the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew about this matter? It doesn't say he saw it and he approved it. قال لا بأس. No. ولولا يعني يثبت علم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بذلك فإن كونه في عهد النبي في عهد الوحي ولم ينكره الله يدل على أنه ليس بحرام لأن الله لم ينكره وأقره. We can also say basically anything that happens during the time of revelation. Okay? And the Sahaba, they didn't. And Allah didn't reveal anything to deny it or to correct it, then Allah agreed with it. Okay? Then Allah agreed with it. And the proof for that is the ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول. Allah said that the munafiqun, the hypocrites, they try to hide from the people and they do their secret talk, plotting and the like. And they do not feel shy from Allah, that Allah sees them and hears them. And He is with them when they're having that talk, that which He is not pleased with. So this secret talk, no one knew. Not the Prophet ﷺ, nor anyone of the Sahaba. They're plotting. But Allah knew and He exposed them. You see? معنى ذلك أن أي شيء لو كان حراما لبينه الله ولا أنكر عليه. Anything that's happening that Allah is not pleased with, okay, He would have told and informed them, like He did with the munafiqeen. So the fact that the menstruating women are doing this, the post-delivery women are doing this, considering this as halal, and Allah doesn't correct them, means it's halal. Okay, means this is the correct what they're doing. لو كان حراما لبينه الله. If it was something not right, Allah would have corrected them. So 40 days is هذا أقصى مدة النفاس. When we say 40 days, she said this is the extreme limit of the bleeding. After 40 days, she considers the bleeding to be done, meaning the bleeding that prevents the prayer and fasting. That's the limit. إذا استمر بها الدم بعد الأربعين فهذا يعد استحاضة. Now we go to istihada. Okay, this is قول جماهير العلماء. Most of the scholars have this opinion that 40 is a fixed limit. Okay, because this came in the authentic hadith, and we don't have anything else from the sunnah to indicate the limit. So they stick to that, say 40 days. After 40 days, if she continues to bleed, إذا وافق خروج الدم عادتها فهذا يعد حيضا وإن لم يوافق عادتها فهو استحاضة. She completed 40 days, okay? She's still bleeding. It could be that continued bleeding for the next week, it agreed with her usual period of the month. She usually bleeds the first 7 days of every month. She completed 40 days. Now it's the first of Muharram, okay? And she's still bleeding, okay? And this is her usual period, the first week of the month. So she considers now she's still, okay, can't pray and fast because this is her usual period time. That could be. But if it is not her usual period time and she's completed 40 days, now she considers it istihada. When istihada, we said, لا يمنع من صلاة ولا صوم. The woman has to pray and fast in the false bleeding. In the false bleeding. And the limit, we said, of 40 days, this is the what has been reported عن عمر ibn Abbas وعثمان ibn أبي العاص وأنس أم سلمة رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. This fixed limit of 40 days reported from these Sahaba, okay, to understand their understanding of this hadith, meaning this is the limit. The hadith didn't say very clearly, okay, but it is understood from that the women considered it 40 days as their postnatal bleeding, and this is the opinion of the Sahaba, and we don't know any other opinion of the Sahaba, so they understood this hadith as that, as a fixed limit. طيب هل هناك حد لأقل النفاس? Is there a lower limit, a minimum? We said the maximum. Is there a minimum? ما في هناك. لا يثبت شيء. قد يكون يوم، يومين، قد يعني يخرج منها الدم أسبوع ثم ينقطع الدم نهائيا فقد طهرت وانتهى النفاس. It could be a few days. It could be 1 week. Okay? It could be any of the above. As long as she stops the bleeding after the baby, after 1 week even, and is complete end of bleeding, then the nifas has ended. She goes back to her routine. Some women don't bleed at all. Okay? But this just indicates the maximum. Okay? So that's for the nifas. And what if the bleeding comes back in the 40-day period? If she was pure, for sure, after 1 week, and she has no doubt about it, some scholars say then that which comes back, it could be her regular period. Okay? She just ended way before 40 days, and she starts bleeding again, that's her period. But anyway, that's rare. But, okay, finally, what's the difference between, we said what's similar between hayd and nifas? That the woman cannot pray or fast. That's the similar. What is the difference? There are some differences. One of them, the difference, أن النفاس, the most important of them, إنه لا يحتسب من العدة أي النفاس بخلاف الحيض. What is one difference? That the hayd, is 3. A woman has to have idda after divorce, the waiting period. What is that? ثلاثة قروء, 3 periods. So the period is bleeding, that by which is part of her waiting period. But the nifas, she doesn't wait during nifas. Why? Because if she was divorced during pregnancy, Allah said, uh, uh, إن كانت Allah said, أَيَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. Allah said, whenever they deliver the baby, okay, even if she's bleeding still with the postnatal bleeding, doesn't matter. Allah said, the end of her period, فَإِدَّتُهُنَّ أَيَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. Allah said, the end of their waiting period, if she was divorced while she was pregnant, is as soon as she delivers the baby. As soon as she delivers the baby, she can marry. She doesn't have to wait anymore. She doesn't have to wait till the bleeding is done, because this is the difference. It's not like she was divorced outside of pregnancy. Outside of pregnancy, she's divorced, she has to wait 3 periods. That's one difference. Another difference, in al-hayd yuhram al-talaq fihi, that the hayd is haram. It's haram to divorce a woman while she is in her menses. This hadith is talaq bid'i, it's haram. بخلاف النفاس. The difference with the nifas, that a man can divorce his wife when she is bleeding, after the baby. Okay, man can divorce his wife while she's pregnant. He can also divorce his wife in the postnatal bleeding, but he cannot divorce his wife when she's in her menses. Okay, those are some rulings regarding the menses. وبهذا القدر كفاية والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. وبذلك انتهينا من باب الحيض بفضل الله تعالى. وإن كان في الأمور بقية سندخل في الباب التالي في درس قادم. So that's the end of this chapter of the menses. Any questions related to that?
About one of the last things you said, is there an elaboration for why in menses in particular you can't divorce a woman?
It's not mentioned, but I mean, it's like one of the reasons it increases her waiting, because she has to now wait the period time, before she can marry again, and she has to wait 3 more periods. I mean, she does no benefit. She doesn't. It increases her waiting. Okay, normally she has to wait 3 months. Now she has to wait 3 months and some days of her menses. That's one thing. And also the woman during the menses, she's going to have some behavior expected, difficult, she's having cramps, and so a man should take that into account and not get into anything with her regarding divorce in this period, because she's not in a normal state. So it's a very poor decision for the man to do that. She's not in her usual condition. She'll wait till she's pure, back to her usual senses, and then you can see if there's an issue or not. I think that's one of the reasons. Maybe other reasons, but inshallah, yeah. طيب, I think we're time for Isha almost. Any other questions? طيب, جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم.